Welcome to the Aligned Human Project podcast, where consciousness meets creation and hustle gives way to harmony. I'm Dawn Elgin, contrarian soul guide, spiritual CEO, and founder of Practical Spiritualism. This is a space where we explore what it truly means to be human, aligned, awakened, and in flow with the field of life itself. Together, we'll bridge science and spirit, energy and embodiment, purpose and prosperity, so you can remember who you are beneath the programming and reclaim the power to create in full alignment with your soul. Because the next evolution of humanity isn't out there, it's in here. This is the Aligned Human Project. Hello, and welcome to the Aligned Human Project and Practical Spiritualism. I'm your host and the founder, Dawn Elgin. And today I want to talk to you about something that is really close to my heart, as in it's active right in this moment. It's about why the work isn't doing it right, but it's about choosing to do it again and again, and doing it out of awareness, out of compassion, out of humility. The vow isn't moral. It's relational. It is energetic, and it is lived in our nervous system. So today I'm excited to share this with you because it's raw and it's real. And what do I mean by that? Well, for the first 2 weeks of this year, I was away on holidays. And usually when I'm away on holidays, I keep my rituals. So it doesn't matter if I'm somewhere across the world. I wake up in the morning and I actually make a protein coffee. I do carry my protein in my little hand blender with me. Then I open up my book and I do my brain dump in the morning. So anything that I'm worrying about, I'm anxious about, any thoughts that are coming up, even any wonderings. And if I'm feeling really good and in my body, then often I'll ask, like, what do I need to let go of? What needs to be released today? How can I be of service? And so for me, it's a bit of writing a letter or speaking with my spirit, my soul. It's where I can get a lot of my angers, my frustrations, my worries, my doubts out and put them onto paper to create them in form without necessarily, projecting them into the world or that energy sitting there humming underneath that is affecting everybody around me. So then the next thing I do is I do a heart coherence breath, which I have recorded, so you can always check it out. And it's, not created by me by any means. Heart Math Institute's done tons of studies on it. Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, lots of people have talked on this. There's, Buddhist meditations around it. And it's powerful and I love it. So then after I do my heart coherence, then I move into writing my intentions. And I write my intentions the same for every quarter. So I set 10 intentions for myself. I hold them for 3 months at a time. Because I got a little woo-woo in me, I usually run from solstice to equinox, equinox to solstice. So this one's running from winter solstice to spring equinox. And so I'd write out those intentions. I write them the same way. Then I run my finger over top of them. I speak them out loud. I have videos on this. It is powerful work. And I have found that it has brought a lot of pieces to life in me. And part of that also is because we're focusing our awareness, our work, on what our intentions are every single day. And then I take some moments and I visualize them, living them here and now. Lots of spiritual work on this, going all the way back, to the work of Jesus. So this is great work and I love it. And I took everything with me on this trip and I did none of it at all. I took my laptop, I took my brain dump book, my intention book with me, and I took my laptop out to post a YouTube and a podcast, and I did none of my usual spiritual work. Aside to listening to Audible books, which I listen to them all the time when I'm working out or walking. Aside from doing some of my Audibles, I actually dropped the ball on all of it. And the thing to tell you about this is what made me really aware of it was my own energetic lag. So I started to notice kind of that shift from really holding center and being grounded to feeling a little more anxious. And if you didn't know, I actually went to Puerto Rico for 2 weeks. Well, we went down to Puerto Rico and did a cruise out of Puerto Rico and then came back, going as far as Curacao, which you could see Venezuela from where we were. And when we arrived in Puerto Rico, it was on the 1st. And then kind of things got a little hot on the 3rd, got on a cruise ship on the 4th, and then started getting closer to that space. And so you could feel the energies of people around us. So it's interesting to me looking back that I didn't dump or anything. Now, our schedule was busy. Got up every morning, had a workout, and then kind of met everybody and we went on. Nobody would have had a problem with me taking my 20 minutes to do what I do in the morning at all. So this is totally on me. Um, and so what became interesting is when I got home, I was really tired. I was lagging. I had a lot of energetic drag by the time I got back home. And I just assumed, 50 menopause, we're, not recovering the way we used to when we travel for 3 hours. Um, and so then when I recognized it, what I started to feel was a lot of guilt. A lot of guilt because I should know better. I teach this. Um, I was disappointed in myself for dropping the ball when I give all of my clients the ability and tools to do this work when they're out, when they're away. Like I said, I've done it when I've been in New York, in Greece, and anywhere else in the world that I've been doing this work. And this time I dropped, and that was really interesting to me. And so luckily I do it enough that I, start brain dumping on feeling, guilty and ashamed of myself and all those pieces and got right back into my morning rituals, my routines. And, I was just looking because I've got little notes for myself, parts I really want to make sure I'm hitting here because they're important. Um, and the big thing was the difference between compassion for ego slips versus frustration when our structure drops. And so really having to settle into that feeling of compassion. And compassion is one of the characteristics of our soul, of the self, of the deeper self, the spirit, whatever you want to call it. Compassion and courage, clarity, connectedness, those are all aspects of our spirit. And so being able to shift and touch back in there. I also made the choice to deepen it. So I decided I was going to go back to reading spiritual work after I did my intention work, which would lengthen out my morning ritual just to help me get back into that rhythm again. The thing I want to start with as I give you all of this is, I wrote this down, is the quiet truth, which is rituals are not what make us spiritual. They make us available. And so I say that because it's the rituals that I have that open me to make me available to source, available to my higher self, available to mystical experiences. It is my rituals that prepare my nervous system, my mind, my spirit, my soul, my body, my heart for the day ahead, which is one of the reasons why I do it. And so to go off of that cue for 2 weeks, not even getting into, eating not as good, definitely having more drinking than normal, all those other pieces. It really made me feel, when I look back, more and more kind of narrow. So I didn't feel as expansive, as grounded as I normally do. And that was really interesting to me that it slipped. It slipped, and I didn't notice it. I was still really present for the most part with everything going on, but it was definitely more of a struggle. Our field is our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, that inner experience, the subtle energies. And when it drifts, when we're not paying attention, we're not setting those intentions, we're not choosing who do I want to be today, then the form follows. The body starts to lag, the things start to feel a little more closed down. And that's really important for us to understand. So when I got home, I made the decision that I was going to go back to doing a book called Becoming Bodhisattvas by Pema Chodron, which is a guidebook for compassionate action. I read it years ago, and it really helped me kind of open my mind and come into this concept of the steps to be taken every day is to awaken our mind and open our heart. And often we want to close our heart. Somebody or multiple people have hurt us, and we want to protect ourselves. And that's normal and that's natural. But it's really important for us to remember that that's actually not what's healthy. What's healthy is to keep our heart wide open. Now, I'm not talking about going back into abusive relationships over and over again. I'm talking about not holding the next person responsible. We want to be able to let go of the wounds, the triggers, the traumas of our past, but we want to hold on to the wisdom. And it's the holding on to the wisdom that allows us to keep our heart open and trust ourselves that we will intuitively know when something's right or when something's wrong, when this is somebody or a situation we can trust or when it's not. And so keeping an open heart is vital. It's actually what keeps our heart at its strongest. The bioelectromagnetic field of the heart measured at over 15 feet in diameter. Strong, powerful. It can absorb negative energy and actually release relief to give back blessing to somebody. It is so powerful when our heart is open. It actually weakens when it's closed. Think predator and prey. So we close the heart and we get smaller, and that actually is unhealthy for us physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically. And so it's important for us to have an open heart, to live wholeheartedly. And there's tons of science on this. So as I read this book, I was back into verse 3. It's kind of done in verses. And in verse 3, at the end of it, is the Bodhisattva vow. And it made me think of, the Aligned Human Project and kind of paralleling them and just trying to find a way to come back into center with myself, to be gentle with myself when my ego, my identity wants to judge, wants to be critical. And so I can be really compassionate for other people and quite critical with myself, which is fairly common in this world. And so I wanted to take a look at what is the difference here? So first off, what Pema Chodron was talking about and in the tradition is the Bodhisattva vow when taken, we repeat it daily. And the reason that we repeat it daily is because every day it's the power of now. It's a new day. It's the only one that exists. And so we need to let go of the past, the day before, and recognize that we did the best we could with what we had. And today we're going to start again. And this is one of those places where it can be really hard, but it's powerful. Because a vow, when we take one, is something, it can be broken in a moment. It can be broken in a flash of anger or a harsh word. It can be broken, and it's not failure, it's just reality. And that's where the critical part comes in. So when I first got home and I'm exhausted and I'm tired and I'm not at my best, and a whole bunch of things happening the first day back to work, and I was triggered. And although I was able to kind of maintain to a certain level, I was definitely not at my peak. I was definitely not in that extremely grounded, open state that I can be. And again, the knee-jerk reaction is to be abusive, to be critical of myself. And then luckily doing this work enough and consistently being able to start getting more compassionate, not in deflection, but to own the role and own, the tone of voice and facial expressions and even words said, to be able to be gentle, like what came up here. And then again, look back and go, okay, well, you haven't given yourself a solid foundation coming into this moment. So let's reestablish this and come back to it. And so it's important when we're going to set a vow for ourselves that it is done over and over and over again every single day, preferably upon waking. So we don't go back into who we were yesterday, but we start the day with who we choose to be. So the point of the vow is not necessarily to do better forever, ideal, but really it's about renewing it. This moment really is the only moment there is. So we keep renewing the vow over and over again. And then we can let go of this fantasy of always being right, of being perfect. We allow ourselves or give ourselves permission to be human while still, striving in some ways to be the best version of ourselves, to keep putting that effort in, which is honorable. And it's important for us to have patience with that human condition. And that's part of the vow, which I love that. I love that the concept is not being perfect, but it's about just reestablishing it over and over. And so the bridge that when I look at these two pieces with the Aligned Human Project is that alignment isn't a destination. Alignment was my word for last year. And it's not a destination. It's a daily orientation with consciousness. It's saying, where am I awake? Where am I aware? of this moment? And where am I in habitual patterns? And so we keep coming back into this. And so when we make that choice each day to come back into alignment, we check in with our values, we check back in with who do I choose to be, we are able to move closer and closer towards alignment. And there's going to be times that we get triggered, we get pulled back out because unless you've, already released all of your dramas and traumas of the past, you released all of the beliefs that you were given as a child that don't serve you. Unless you've already done all of that work, there's going to be moments that we get pushed and pulled. There's going to be moments that we stumble, and that's human. And we wouldn't berate a child for trying to learn how to walk. And that's really what we're trying to do now. It's a new way of walking. It's a new way of being in this world. We've learned how to crawl, and now we're just trying to get our legs under us. And so we need to remember not to berate us, because the berating of ourselves, the guilt, the shame, the embarrassment, all of that junk actually holds us back. It weighs us down and makes more time to get to that destination that we desire, to come back to ourself, to remember our divinity, our perfection, which is there underneath all of that other garbage. So in this book, when she was going through the first 2 verses of the Bodhisattva vow, she's talking about 3 approaches that we can take. And I love them. So I'm going to share them with you. So the first one is called the king or the queen. And the king or the queen is inner sovereignty first. So this is really the basis of coaching. You are your only project. If you ever worked with me, this is something that you will have heard me say at least once, if not multiple times, especially if you bring up your children or your spouse. So you are your only project. And it's important. And it is inner sovereignty. It's dealing with ourselves first. And so we work on ourselves in the benefit of the whole, in the benefit of others as well. So not only does it benefit us, it benefits all those relationships. It benefits our family, our friends, our coworkers. It benefits our community and the world at large. The radical truth is you cannot give what your nervous system doesn't have. So at some point, we need to do our own work first. And it doesn't matter if other people are doing their work. Everybody's on their own journey, and it's not for us to judge whether their journey is right or wrong. It's for us to walk our own journey. And so this approach of the king or the queen is inner sovereignty first. So we work on ourselves in benefit for the whole, in benefit for the world around us and our community. So in the aligned human project point would be that this is sovereignty before service. So you're taking care of yourself and it will benefit everybody else. And so it's a beautiful gift because you are part of the whole. And so the inner kingdom must be regulated before leadership, whether that's at home, at work, in the world at large, is even possible. So it's always field first and form second. So then the second approach is the ferryman. So just like me is the concept. Now I use this a ton in the beginning, especially when I was driving. Be getting pissed off with other drivers. You've heard me on my podcast that before, talk about this a lot. I used to be a very irritated driver. And this approach specifically was one that I used for a long time, which is just like me. So when I was getting frustrated, I would look at the faces of all the other people in the cars and I would say, they're just like me. They're just like me. Scattered on her phone, trying to do 3 things at once, she's just like me. He's blowing a gasket and pissed off because he's got somewhere to go and he doesn't want to be there, just like me. And this was a powerful tool for me to use to start shifting, especially about 9 years ago when I really came into Pema Chodron's work. And so it reminds us that we're all in this boat together. We're all in this world together and we are connected and we are intertwined and there is entanglement. And science is proving that we have known intuitively, spiritually for thousands of years. And that is that we are connected. There is a divine matrix, a consciousness that holds it all together. And what I do affects you and what you do affects me. And the ferryman reminds us and holds ourselves in the center. And so it's the reminder of shared humanity. Um, it's also the reminder that no one wants pain. They're just like me. They don't want to be embarrassed. They're just like me. They don't want to be humiliated or feel ashamed or feel guilty. They're just like me. And everybody wants safety. Everyone wants safety, security, belonging, and love. We all have those four big desires, needs in our lives. They're just like me. So the reminder here is my anger, my depression, my resentment, when met consciously, becomes bridges instead of walls. From our field and form concept, it is where separation dissolves and empathy becomes a state and not a strategy. So then the third approach is that of the shepherd. So the highest aspiration, so to speak, where we are putting others first, this spontaneous compassion. But the reminder here is it's not self-abandonment. The shepherd always puts the sheep ahead of himself. He always puts the flock first, taking care of them. Now, the important thing about the shepherd is it arises naturally when the first two are integrated. So where we often burn out is we jump to the shepherd, and we see this with parents, like moms do this all the time, is we put our kids ahead of ourselves. But if we haven't done the first two works, we burn out. And this is why we end up feeling resentment. We feel anger and frustration. And we see this a lot in women when we hit menopause. All of a sudden, we're like, I'm out. I'm done. I've done all the taking care of everybody else. I'm taking care of myself first. But had we actually done our work in the proper order, step by step by step, we would come to this and be able to hold it with absolute love and compassion because we would recognize we were part of the whole. And so it's important for us to remember that these vows, like the Bodhisattva vow, is done and it's step by step by step for a reason. So the other important distinction is it's not forced. Otherwise, it becomes martyrdom. And true compassion is regulated and not reactive. So I have a client right now that I am working with, and this has been a big conversation between us. There's this frustration that comes up when we first start doing this work. And the frustration comes from all of a sudden becoming aware of our behaviors, aware of our habitual patterns, the destruction that we can cause people when we are in states of drama. And if we're not careful, we can really become critical. It can make us have self-loathing. It can make us feel like we're stuck in the mud. It can really kind of throw us into states of depression. And it's important that we do this work, that we're going through these pieces step by step and using tools that help us stay afloat. So the first initial awareness as we're doing the work is it can make things harder. It makes us aware of all the shadows. It makes us see the shadows, and if we don't have the compassion, it can create actually self-attack. So having that self-compassion, understanding that, we are children. We are small children just starting to remember who and what we are. And we need to not expect ourselves to be at the end of the race, so to speak, at the end of the journey when we're just at the start of it. And one of the dangers or the pitfalls of this is that often judgment will masquerade as accountability. I'll say that again. So judgment often will masquerade as accountability. So we beat ourselves up and we blame ourselves and we take all the responsibility and it masquerades as accountability. But judgment, whether it's for other people or for ourselves, is unhealthy. And it is not part of our spiritual journey. It's not part of our remembering. It is an ego form. And it's also really important for us to remember that shame keeps the nervous system locked in the past. And it's in sharing our stories, in talking about these things that we're going through, that allows us to release that shame, to no longer allow it to have power over us, so that we can breathe again and start reconnecting, cultivating deeper connections with each other. And so a vow is really a pattern interrupter. And that's why it's important, if we're taking a look at this from rituals, that we start with our vow first thing in the morning. Who do you choose to be? I often will, with clients, I'll say, take a sticky note, a bright pink one or a bright colored one, stick it in the middle of your mirror so that you see it every morning when you brush your teeth. And in bold ink, write on there, who do you choose to be today? And we'll start with, what is your choice? Now, a vow is having that in place for yourself so you know who it is that you choose to be today. So I made the decision to take a look at the Bodhisattva vow again and actually translate it into an aligned human vow. So because I'm not a Buddhist, it was important for me to find my own truth in my own way. So not as a replacement for that vow, but for myself and for my own work that would be an alignment that I could truly integrate in. And the idea here at core is that a vow is how we choose awakening over automation, moment by moment. So today I want to share with you this vow that I created and recognize the importance that we renew it daily. So I'll make sure that I have it in writing in the show notes so that you can take a look at it there. I'm also going to post it in the blog on my website, so at practicalspiritualismco.com. So you'll be able to find it in a bunch of different places and really see if this resonates for you. I encourage you to take this vow, and if it doesn't resonate fully or there needs to be a shift, make the shift. Make it yours. It's important that we're each becoming an aligned human, but that alignment is with our soul, our unique spark of divinity. And so please make it your own. Take some time with it and feel into it and see, does this resonate for me or do I need to shift it a titch? When you find that vow, you can shorten it, you can shrink it, you can make it a few sentences, but it's important that we renew it daily. And that it's one line, one breath, one pause. It's like we're taking this moment to really absorb it into our bodies. And that when we break it, because there will be days that we stumble, and it's just that we over and over again, we retake the vow again in that moment. Okay, there was the stumble. Awareness is the practice. Awareness, 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 awareness. It's always about building awareness. And that we extract the wisdom from the stumble and we release the shame. So those are kind of the practical points that we want to come into this as we're coming into the vow itself. Okay, so here is the aligned human vow. So it's kind of a 1-minute vow renewal. I pause. I feel my body. I come back to this moment. Today, I renew my vow not to be perfect, but to be present. I choose awareness over habit. I choose compassion over self-attack. I choose responsibility without shame. When I tighten, I will notice. When I react, I will return. When I fall into old patterns, I will extract the wisdom and release the weight. I do not abandon myself. I do not harden my heart. I remember. I am human. And I am capable of choosing again. In this breath, in this moment, I align my field before my form. I renew the vow to awaken, not someday, but now. I hope this touched something in you. It's a reminder that alignment isn't about being good. It's about being awake. It's about being aware. It's about keep coming back to the present moment. And the vow itself isn't about perfection. It's about returning to presence, returning to compassion, and really returning to choice. If this resonated with you, you are not broken. You are simply becoming aware. So this is the work we do inside the Aligned Human Project. Alignment isn't moral, it is relational. So if it resonated, please hit like, hit follow, stay with me. This world needs each of us to make the vow, to come back into presence, to remember who and what we truly are, which is a divine being having a human experience. We are pure perfection. From my heart to yours, with great love and honor, I will see you next time. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to remember yourself. Because when you align with your truth, everything else begins to align with you. If this episode sparked something inside you, hit follow or subscribe and share it with someone walking their own path of awakening. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find free resources, programs, and community spaces waiting for you at practicalspiritualismco.com. Remember, alignment isn't a place you reach. It's a practice you live. So keep pausing, keep feeling, keep aligning. You are the field. You shape the form.